Hello and welcome Eclipse Day to Facebook Live with Kenda Ruth. I am Kenda Ruth from The Hero Spouse, and I'm here to answer your questions on marriage and midlife crisis. This is an extra mid Thrive launch week. Since I had so many, I thought we could do an extra one. So I'm kind of excited because I like to do these lives, even though I'm squishing this in. And it's kind of right after the eclipse, isn't it? Because I just got onto the Facebook page and I'm seeing some of your posts of the pictures. Oh, that's so cool. Because I was taking Jeremiah somewhere today and he was like, oh no, I'm missing things. And I was like, well, we're not really in the area. There's not much to see. Even though the school was putting out all sorts of safety information. Okay, so first let's get started with our information. I am going live in 3 places. I'm going live on YouTube. I'm going live in a private Facebook group where your comments are safe. I am going live in a public Facebook group. If you comment in the public page, then other people might see your comments. So I'm going to go put a comment into the group so that you know which group you're in. I am also going to be putting in a link to my free course, Understanding Midlife Crisis, as well as a link to Stand Up and Thrive, which is now open until this coming Thursday evening. Thursday at 9 o'clock my time, that is Pacific time, is when the doors close for that, and they close for about 8 weeks. So that everyone can go through my embedded course, Detach and Thrive, and everyone can go through, and as soon as that the 8 weeks that it takes to go through Detach and Thrive, they go through on their own. But once that 8-week drip course is done, then we open up again. So hold on, public Facebook group. I'm going to go refresh my page, make sure it's coming through in there. And you can comment and I will watch your comments. If I have time, I will try and comment on them or answer your questions. But otherwise, I am going to answer from pre-submitted questions. We've got quite a few, so we won't get through all of them. And then we'll do the last bit on Thursday, and then any questions that are left over, which there should be because I do 3 questions a week. And so I'm always trying to collect questions. Okay, so let me go to our pages, make sure we're refreshing the screen and coming through. Good. Okay, that worked. Good. And then I think I'll go over to YouTube and put the piece about, I don't need to tell you which group you're in. You know you're in YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, but I can put the links in there. So give me a moment on the, oh good. Is it this time? Last week and this time has been easier to find me. Sometimes when I have to scroll through the group a whole bunch to find where I'm coming in. So now over to YouTube. Let's see. Okay, so it does say submit questions, Stand Up and Thrive. And just, I'm going to put in the chat that link again. Is it going? I can't tell. Well, I've hit the little submit button a few times, but I don't see it coming through. But let's get going. So every one of these is numbered so that if you need to go back through and use a transcript, you can just say, look for number 1, and you can keyword number 1, number 2, that sort of thing. So number 1, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse. She has a bomb drop of February 13th, 2023, a date of marriage of, there's something wrong on this one because it says 2023. This one, the date of marriage says April 2023, so I'm not sure if she has another date of April in here somewhere. We'll look. She has a boomerang who is a low energy wallower. She says he came home from work in a panic attack with severe crying, and this was bomb drop. He said that he had been thinking about his mom who passed away in April of 2018. Quickly, he corrected himself to say he's crying because he cheated on me. And one more time, no, that's not why I'm crying. I'm crying because I've been eating weed brownies daily for the last 2 years. Then on February 15th, so 2 days later, I told him to pack his things because he's a drug addict. He stayed. Instead, he cried and tried to work through things. He still says he hasn't cheated on me. And I don't have any evidence that he's cheated. March and April and May included long talks, vacations, deep connections, and withdrawing from weed to prove that he's not addicted. It was great. Edible cravings increased through summer, and so did arguments. He suggested divorce in July. August was about the boys and late night return. And when you say about the boys, do you mean your children, or do you mean hanging out with the guys? Don't know, either way. About the boys and late nights and return to daily weed. September 24th, I'm assuming, because not 2024, because we're not there yet. He asked for space. September 27th, so 3 days later, he asked for a divorce. I told him I had breast cancer November 8th. He bought a house and moved out December 10th. So when he asked for a divorce, did he also file for divorce? Because suddenly there's this house popping up. He insisted on taking me to cancer appointments. I learned about midlife crisis on Valentine's Day of this year, February 14th. Okay, so there's not really a question in there. It's basically, the basic thing is, here's my story. Now what? Now what is, you learned about midlife crisis, or I think what you mean is you learned about it, not you learned, oh, this is probably a midlife crisis, and everything that's been going on, there's an explanation. So I need to learn about what this is. But I learned that there's a reason for what's happening. So then the next step is now you actually learn about midlife crisis, what it means. You understand it. So now go through the course if you haven't already. Now is when you get some help. First thing, he may or may not have some addiction problems. He also may not or may not have some accountability and excuse-making problems. He came home in a panic attack, severe crying, and here's some of what's going on right here, what I see with this panic attack. And now there could be a real panic attack, but I also see if I make myself seem worse, then I'll have an excuse for being worse. I will get the empathy I'm looking for. And so I'm going to make it seem worse, like crocodile tears. Okay. Because he then quickly corrected himself and, oh, no, wait. It's not about my mom dying. It's about me cheating on you. Now, why would you make that up? And to say you're addicted to weed. I mean, it's not like saying you're addicted to cocaine. I'm not trying to minimize this, but if I'm going to choose cheating to lie about or being addicted to cocaine, maybe I don't know which one. But if I'm going to choose, what should I lie about? Cheating, or that I'm addicted to a substance that is legal in many places and recreational that people do, maybe. I'm not familiar enough. I haven't used weed, so I could be way off. Dion's going to come at me about it later. So, and maybe if it were alcohol addiction, serious problems. So I can see, but why would you go and lie about being cheated on? Because at one point, suddenly, I did something against you and betrayed you. So it's not connecting here. All of his behaviors. It doesn't make sense. And I feel like he's manufacturing some excuses to make himself seem weaker, seem like a victim, give himself an excuse, kind of like, I can't mow the lawn because, and then here's why. I'm sad today. So I think there needs to be some more help. And by help, I mean therapy. And I know what I've said about midlife crisis and therapy. And yeah, you could be having a midlife crisis, and that means the therapy is not going to work, but you should be in it. And here, I like it's not trickle down or trickle over or trickle up effect, but it's the osmosis. I like the idea of if one person is in therapy, is there an influence? If one person is changed in a relationship, it still changes the relationship. Now, it might change the relationship to a point where you're like, this person isn't changing enough, and I'm growing beyond that. But we influence the people around us. For better or for worse, we influence them. It's that give and take. It's action reaction. When we push in a balloon, it bends. So we change the people around us. So I want you in therapy. I want to figure out if he's saying he has addiction problems need professionals or support groups or some other sort of help. If he's just saying, I have a problem, now I'm going to work on it. Acknowledging may be the first step to fixing a problem, but it isn't the last step. Then you get help. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to read a book and do this on my own. There are some things that aren't on my own cold turkey stuff. And sure, it's not to say that some people haven't done them. Those are the rare cases. You're not going to be the exception. And I think there's a lot of excuse making going on here. So great that he insists on taking you to cancer appointments. You learned about MLC. I want you to know what that means. I want you to know that he's just going to be cycling with excuses. He bought a house. What does that mean? Did he move into it? Let's see. You told him he returned. He asked for space. You didn't ever say he moved out, see. I'm going to assume then, since he bought a house, that he's moved out. Oftentimes people are very specific. He moved out on this date. So you're going to live your life. You're going to heal. You're going to get some therapy. I want you to find somebody who is a professional to help you. And that could be Al-Anon also. So some of it's not always professional. Some of it is support groups. And Al-Anon is great for codependence. Al-Anon is great for spouses and family members of people who are addicts. Addicted to whatever, or have codependent issues. Coming from that kind of a background, whether you are a family member, whether you're the adult child of an alcoholic, Al-Anon could help, because you could be in a codependent relationship. Now, that doesn't mean your spouse is the addict. It could be your parents. It can help you with those sort of relationships. You said that you told him he had to leave, and he stayed. You said, I told him to pack his bags because he's a drug addict. Very hard line. Right or wrong, it's good, great, if that's what you want. But he stayed. So in other words, you set a boundary, but you weren't able to maintain that boundary. What happened? In other words, he knows how to break the boundary. What happened? What do you need to do? Maybe he convinced you and it was the right thing for him to do. But what happened? What do you need to do to be able to set an appropriate boundary and hold to it? That's part of what you're going to be learning through this, is learning how to set your boundaries. Learning how to say, this is where I am. This is me. Over here is you. This is my fence. This is your fence. And we can be together, but we're going to know where each one of us starts. And you don't get to control my part of it. And if I say that you have to walk away right now, you have to leave this space. In other words, I live here and you live there. That's how it is. We also have to learn how to be integrated, interdependent. Not codependent, but interdependent, meaning we can be independent, but we can also live together and be, we use these co-words. Codependent is bad, but co-parenting is good. So I think sometimes we add the word co in randomly to things, and then inter. So in this case, we try to use inter for the positive side of dependence when we work together. But then there's the co-bonding and the pair bonding. We want to learn to pair bond together, but as individual units as well. And that's what you need to learn. I want you to work on your healing while understanding midlife crisis. That's going to be your challenge, is understanding the midlife crisis and understanding what it is for him, possibly as an addict, and he's going to be held accountable, and he's not going to take accountability. And then he's not, and then he's not, and then he's not, until he does. And part of that is, as an addict, he may not. But the other part of it is, as an MLCer, he's not, and he's not, he's not. while he's in MLC, not going to take it, not going to take it, not going to take it. Okay? Get your little wins. He's taking you to cancer appointments. Okay? I'm sorry for your cancer. Okay, we're going to go on to number 2. Number 2, we have Amelia. Amelia has a bomb drop of April 26th, 2023, and a date of marriage of 2002. She has a boomerang who is a high energy replayer. She says, my husband, who is 50, left home for work training in December of 2022. After the training, we were supposed to go to a new foreign assignment together, but soon he started to use escorts, massage parlors, and ended up reconnecting with his former fiancée from 25 years ago. We're married. We've been married for 21 years and together for 24. We have a daughter who's 16 and a daughter who's 19. He told me, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, and he asked for a divorce at the end of April. So that's bomb drop, 2023. By then, he was having a vacation with her, who she's 51, and her children, who are daughter 19, son 18, and a son who's 16. By then, he was having vacation with her and her kids, having fertility treatments with her. She's 51. Sorry. Having fertility treatments with her, etc. I mean, I'm 51. Fertility treatments. I'm trying to... Okay. And ignored me and the daughters, or monitored when we contacted the few times during the summer of 2023. In August, he came home for a scheduled trip to move our daughter to her new apartment, our daughter who's 19. He then acted like nothing happened, and he told me he wanted to fix our marriage, but this was just a cover-up so that I didn't report him to his work. I filed for legal separation at the beginning of August. He blamed me, and he's lied about everything in court. He's monstering even in the court documents. He says, she doesn't say he says, it just says he'll remarry. I'm assuming it says I'm assuming what it is he says he'll remarry, but he'll remarry and have a new life in the overseas with she and her kids. So the first thing then I'm going to ask, and I'm just assuming that is she's overseas. So when he got reconnected with her, he was overseas with her. So his former fiance is overseas, and are they from the same place? Just out of curiosity. And then she phrases it, does he, coming out of the tunnel, which doesn't make sense for a few reasons. First thing, the sentence would be, is he? But that actually doesn't make sense. It makes sense grammatically. That's a proper sentence. But if bomb drop was just under a year ago, he's not coming out of the tunnel. Given the behavior you're describing, I'm confused at why anyone would think that. So I'm not sure if that's actually what you're asking. I'm not trying to criticize that, but because of the phrasing, I'm not sure if that's what you really... I was wondering if you mean, is he coming out of the tunnel? Or were you asking, can he someday come out of the tunnel? Is it possible for him to come out of the tunnel? So let's go over all of those, okay? First thing, is he coming out of the tunnel? Okay, absolutely not. MLC lasts 3 to upwards of 7 years. You are in it 1 year. He is in this, and we start the clock. MLC starts before, but when I say 3 to upwards of 7, that clock of time starts at bomb drop. So there could be roots where MLC is still going on, but we're not counting that on that time clock. So he is having replay behaviors, and replay will last a few years. High energy replayer. That lasts for a few years. When replay's over, that's not the end of MLC. So I'm not going to expect anything until 2027. Now, I wouldn't really, that would be early for an MLCer to return, not premature. People return after 3 years. It is not premature. I mean, could be premature for somebody who's supposed to be in longer, but statistically, it is part of on the spectrum that they can be done at 3. It is not common that they are done at 3, which is why I say it is not premature. Before 3 years, I will call it premature. Kind of like some cookies bake at 9 minutes, some cookies bake at 12 minutes. Not counting those no-bake cookies, there aren't cookies that bake at 3 minutes. So a cookie that you pull out of the oven at 3 minutes, that's premature. That's just called raw. So he's not going to be done with his MLC at this point. You're seeing MLC behavior now, so he's not coming out of the tunnel. He has barely made it into the tunnel. He is still blaming you. He's monstering at you, and MLC gets worse before it gets better. You are still in the it gets worse phase. I would expect an it gets worse phase for the first, I don't like the expect word, but 12 to 24 months is when you could see it beyond that. But that is, it gets worse. I have to keep telling you, it gets worse. It gets worse. I'm sorry you haven't seen the worst of it, and it's felt pretty horrible. Your job is to be a wall of strength during this, because he's trying to bully you. He came home and lied so that you wouldn't report him at work. Report him at work. Clearly, he has a job that he is afraid of getting in trouble at. Now, obviously, you need to be careful with that. I mean, I'm coming out saying, do this, and then he's going to do that, and he's going to lose his job, and you're not going to get anything afterwards, and you're going to be left destitute. So I don't want that. But you need to be careful what you do. But at the same time, don't let that hang over you. You're not his keeper, and you need to do what's right for everybody in this. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't come out of this in time to save the marriage, or they don't come out of this to come back to the marriage, regardless of time. Or you decide, hey, I don't want this. This is not what I'm going to have. I am going to go check just for a minute. Okay, we've got a couple hellos. Is the sound coming okay? Just to make sure, because no one said anything other than hello. Okay. Just checking everywhere. Okay. And are you assuming that he'll remarry and have a new life with her overseas? Maybe. What is he going to lose? Now, that's a little consolation for me to tell you. What is he going to lose? Because you're going to lose too, right? It's like, well, he's losing bigger than you are, and that may be true. Okay, good. Thank you. But right now, we can't change it. We can't change an MLCer. We can influence. Remember what I said, you can influence a person, but they're still in midlife crisis. They're still confused. They're still lost. And anything we do that is clearly trying to be an obstacle in their way, they will resist, because we're resisting them. They are going to resist us. They're like a teenager that way. They will resist us just for the point and purpose of being resistant. Even when they know that they could admit, yeah, everything that you're doing is right. They might admit that 10 years later. They could admit it now and know it now and do it just for the spite of it. They'll do something for the purpose of fighting. Okay? So I want you to take care of those daughters. If you aren't working or something like that, and you need to get means of having an income and all of that, you're going to have to take care of yourself. This is for every one of you. We are all going to have to find a way to take care of ourselves and our families, because they aren't going to do it for us. Some of them keep up that. Some of them don't. And he looks like he's not going to do it. And that means you are going to have to fight for what is rightly yours in court. And your daughters. They're growing up. You get them into this world. Get them educated so that they have a means of supporting themselves, because they're not going to count on dad. And I hope and I pray that they will have a relationship with him in the future, and that he doesn't lose that, or that he is able to regain that. But right now, he has to come to realize what he is losing. And how are you going to show him that? You're going to show him that by being your best self, by healing and being that best self, and you're not going to take it out on him. You just show him what he's missing without telling him he's missing it. If you're telling him he's missing it, then you're really not showing him that he's missing something, because you're being whiny and, hey, look how wonderful we are, where we're really looking desperate. If you don't want to look desperate, you want to actually be an attractive force, then you can't tell people how wonderful you are because you're not as wonderful. It's maybe that's a paradox or an irony. The more we say how great we are, the less great we are. Okay, I am going to go to number 3. Let's see, we are 25 minutes in. Okay, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of August 19th, 2023, a date of marriage of 1990, an at-home MLCer who is a low-energy wallower. I did not have time. I wanted to right before when I was reading through this, and I didn't have time to review it, but she says I was actually, today's, which was actually, since these are old, the from the YouTube topic borderline MLC, where I said borderline MLC, I have to be careful because that makes it look like borderliner, the personality disorder, where she took the MLC quiz and it came out borderline, like maybe not. So there's a little bit more information. She said it turns out that and I got this at the same time, the little trickle twos you get, there's more. Oh, we know more now. It turns out the emotional affair with the old flame started 2 months before bomb drop and became physical a month later. So it wasn't really emotional. So now check another box. We're probably not borderline right there. That could tip us. Okay. They met at the high school reunion. Oh, the meeting at the high school reunion was just for show because they'd already been together. So he was lying about how they met. He was being deliberately deceptive. He's been seeing her about every 2 months as his job has regular business in the country where she lives. I found proof of the affair from his journal and I confronted him. He said he fell in love with her after a month of texting before he even spoke to her again. So all this time they've been planning on using his job to relocate to where she lives. So my new question, is he limerent? I'm going to ask you, is he limerent? Okay, so you're asking about limerence, which means you've heard of the word and you know what it is. And limerence is infatuation. And it is basically a chemical high. Does he have a chemical high? Has he just decided to, well, first thing, he stepped out of his marriage. And this wasn't, we had the previous one going to massage parlors. So more than one person. This one is one person. It is an old flame. That is not uncommon. But it's one person. Somebody who he already was familiar with somewhat. He is decided, he said you say he said. So this is him saying he fell in love. So he's used that term, those words with her. And it was before he, after a month of text, before even speaking to her. And then now he's planning to leave his wife. So he stepped out of his marriage with somebody else. So he's choosing to destroy his marriage. They're planning on using his job to relocate. He's going to move his whole life. He's going to drop everything for this other person. Now, it's not quite drop everything for someone he doesn't know. He's dropping everything for someone he did know. Right? Okay, hold on. With the old flame, yeah. But does that sound limerent to you? Sounds it to me. It really does. I mean, he is changing his entire life, dropping everything, not giving consideration. And he's doing it like that. He didn't have this slow growing affair that he just kept in the background for 6 years and was able to manage double life. No. He fell for that. And as soon as he fell for that, and he didn't even have to be speaking to her, he fell for it. And he was immediately pulled in. He was hook, line, and sinker. That's a chemical high. That is a chemical addiction. That's limerence, yeah. If it happens that hard, that fast, yeah, he's limerent. I think you knew that. I think you knew that. So old flames aren't uncommon. And, you know, it doesn't really change this. That's just what a midlife crisis is. Okay? So I want you to do the same thing that I'm telling you to do for everybody else. You're going to heal. You're going to be strong. And you are going to be the attractive force for him. You're going to be but even more, I think in today's, I referenced PIES from Marriage Builders, PIES, and I can never remember what the acronym is. I know it's physical, is it intellectual, emotional, spiritual? I might have just done them all, but you're working on all of those pieces of your life, and they say this is how you become attractive to other people. To me, I think it's great to be an attractive force, and I want that. But I don't want you to be misled to think that because you are an attractive force and this makes you that's going to attract, that this is how you're going to get your spouse back, that makes it happen. And they don't tell you it's a guarantee, but sometimes we get that anyway. Okay. I want you to really realize that the bigger attractive force is the mirror. You become an attractive force to that person in the mirror too. You're going to love yourself. And the person who loves themselves is an attractive force out there. Charisma, that real charisma, the genuine, that is charisma with beauty in it, comes from self-love. Feeling that you are valued and worthy, and that you give that out to others, that you mirror it back to the world. Grace. That's grace. So that's what I want all of you working on. I want you working on the PIES so that you're attractive to you, so that you can then be a mirror and bounce that back out to the world. Okay. Number 4, we have Laura. Laura has a bomb drop of December 30th, 2021. And a date of marriage of 2016. She has an at-home low-energy wallower. She says, since bomb drop, my husband moved to our guest room and has been sleeping there since then. So we are at, 2.5 years. Okay, not quite. Not quite 2.5 years, okay. There hasn't been any type of intimacy in the last 2 years. Bomb drop was due to me finding out he was having an emotional affair with a coworker. Since then, he has started a new job in April of 2022. So not quite a year and a half after bomb drop, he started the new job, and he seemed happy. However, he was showing signs of depression, like not going out with friends or enjoying the outdoors as he would usually do. He has withdrawn from his family and old friends. During all of this time, he has said he will leave and separate, but he's still at home. Most recently, on February of 2024, or February 24th, one of those, he finally said he spoke with a lawyer and that he wants to begin with divorce and division of assets. There's still no paperwork or no leaving. He sees as a threat that I continue to be nice to him and cook dinner. I love that. He told me I was doing that to try to convince him to stay. He started to go out at night to bars and take care of his appearance. I don't know if he's talking to other women. This is very painful. Well, what do you want? Yeah, you're right. It's very painful. And I think you recognize a few things. Number 1, you recognize that he's depressed. Even though he's on one of those up cycles at the moment, because he's decided that he's got some energy, a little bit of energy. He's going to do that. I'm just going to go out. But he is taking your grace and trying to twist it so that it make it a bad thing, which is just, when he says something like that, it's okay to laugh at it. It's okay. It really is. It's okay. Or to yeah, thanks, whatever. Because you know what? There comes times where, we do things because they're the right thing to do. Not because of the gifts we're going to get, the rewards we're going to get, because we're not. You're not getting a reward for it, are you? You just got accused of being nice because you have an ulterior motive. But you're being nice because he needs dinner, right? And think about, I think about belief systems where they say, well, I am doing this because I'm a good Christian and I'm doing it to get into heaven. Or I want to save that person's soul, but really I'm saving that person's soul because I want to get into heaven. I'd rather save that person's soul than do it for me, though. The reason to do something is to help the other person. The reason is the empathy I feel for that little kitten that's crying on the street. Oh, little kittens, they're just heartbreaking. Little kittens, you know, those little pet Humane Society commercials get me every time. That, you know, because of the children in need, because of everybody that is in need, those things. It's because it's the right thing to do. That's why. And that's why you're doing it. It's the right thing to do because grace is always right. Let's say we were to look out 1,000 years in the future, and we're going to look at our global political system right now, and we can see, oh, but if we follow this path, everything's bad in 1,000 years. And if we follow this path, things aren't as bad. But this path right now, where things aren't as bad, is horrible for us now. And this path where things get worse is bad in 1,000 years. What should we do now that we have this crystal ball of insight? We have this wonderful life, and our children aren't suffering right now. And this one path, it's not horrible, but it's not great. But things are better in 1,000 years than they would be. Maybe we only have to look outside of us a few years, because do we make today's people suffer to save the people in front of them or not? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's kind of a big question. You do something because it's right, and that's why you're doing that. And I'm sorry, it's so painful. So I want you to think about what you want. He is depressed. And so your job is to simply live your life. And when he moves out, or if you kick him out, it's up to you. It is up to you. But he said he'll do it, and so you let him do it. And you continue to be grace, because that's the right thing to do. Remember, when I talk about being grace, I'm not talking about being, and I talk about agape, I am not talking about eros. I'm not talking about sexual love. I'm talking about the love we're supposed to feel for all people. And so you show kindness to all people. Sometimes kindness is boundaries, and sometimes there's structure that is strict and discipline, and things seem harsher. Some people interpret things as harsh when they're not meant for that also. But you give grace, you give love, you give kindness, you give compassion, you give empathy, and he can turn that, and he's using that. He's trying to manipulate you so that you stop, because he feels guilty. It's about his guilt. You know what, honey? I am really sorry that you are feeling so guilty because people are kind to you. I'm sorry you feel guilty, like you don't deserve kindness. But you know what? There isn't a creature out there that doesn't deserve kindness. Even the ones I don't like. And there's some I don't like. But they deserve kindness. They deserve compassion. And you're one of them. And he's going to deny it. Even if it's just in his head. You're just getting to me. Blah. It's going to be annoying to him. And so you back off. And you're compassionate from a distance. Because your compassion isn't so that he stays and you're a stander. Your compassion is because it's the right thing to do. And if you want, you learn about depression. You learn about being the spouse of somebody who's depressed. If you want to be a stander, you're going to stand from a distance. You're going to stand with space and that distance. You're going to move on with your life and be kind, and you're be gracious, and allow him to be depressed and allow him to get through his own healing as he can. Because as he's going to heal, maybe he can come back through and be there for you. Okay, now I'm going to look up. There is a book. It is by Emmy and Philip Aronson. Philip, is it? Philip Aronson. And this one was on depression. This had nothing to do with midlife crisis, okay? So I'm going to hold that up. They are a couple. This is not a therapist. And it's called Morning is Broken, A Couple's Journey Through Depression. He went through a depression. There was no divorce talk or anything, but from the description, it was almost sometimes like she was childlike in it, or she had to take care of him. She had to have him babysat a few times during it. It got so bad that he was suicidal. And he wasn't suicidal because he was suicidal, wanted to die. It was the burden on his family. They were always scared. So that is one, it just helps with what they had to go through. You're not alone, kind of thing, and what they learned through it. So see if that is helpful. Learn about depression and MLC with low energy wallowers, because that's what you've got. I'm sorry. Okay. It's not personal. And I think one of the things we know it's not personal is because he tried to manipulate your positive behaviors, your niceness. You just keep being nice, okay? It's the right thing to do. I'm sorry, Laura. Okay, I am going to read this. Hold on for a second. I want to see. Okay. So, marriage of 15 years, bomb drop May 2023. I moved out in November of 2023. 6 children, 2 with autism. Oofta. She's in Limerence with a guy she met online 20 years ago. She started an emotional affair for about 2 years. The guy lives in Cancun and we're in California. She's traveled to Cancun and he's come here. I met someone 2 months ago and I enjoyed the relationship. Should I continue with a new one or stop it to try to wait for my wife? My wife doesn't show any interest on the relationship. Okay, so first thing I'm going to tell you, I want you to make a decision on what you want. Bomb drop was a year ago, or just under a year ago. If you want to have a marriage, then you stop. But first thing, don't use the word wait for your wife, because there's no guarantee. Second, children are better off if their parents stay married, if they can heal that. But you're not going to heal it right now, okay? You're not going to heal it. You have 6 children, 2 with autism. She's in Limerence with a guy. She started the affair, but you said you moved out. I understand that you moved out, and because usually the woman stays home, but she's the one who's out there having an affair. How well are those children being cared for? She's not being responsible. So I have concerns in that. I have concerns. And maybe she's just being wonderful. But there are a lot of children. There are 2, at least 2, if there aren't others, but 2 special needs children. Because you have 2 children with autism. She's seeing a guy she met online 20 years ago. So there's some interest and concern in this about the choices she's making. And then you've met someone, you're enjoying the relationship, you continue it. I would, instead of thinking about meeting someone and enjoying the relationship, I would hold off on relationships right now for longer, because I would rather put a greater space between one relationship and another than you have right now, and give yourself more time to heal. And I would rather, but this is just my advice, you focus more on your own healing as well as your children in the meantime. If you can do that, and focus on friendship relationships, other types of social relationships that you may need, and focus on all of the healing that you need to do, because you say she's not going to be interested in a relationship with you right now. If this is a midlife crisis, no, she's not. It hasn't even been a year. MSA 3 to upwards of 7. I know that sucks. But if you can come through this, your children are better off that way. If you can come through it. Children are better off in relationships where their parents are together if the relationship is low conflict. If the relationship is high conflict, they're better off when their parents are not together. Unfortunately, sometimes during a midlife crisis, the relationship can become high conflict. But what happens if you have a high conflict relationship that can be repaired to low conflict? So you can have a period where they're not better off with you two together during this, but where a reconnection and where it can be rehabilitated, rebuilt, and reconciled. That would be beautiful. And it would be wonderful for the children. Look at what they learn about repair. making amends, forgiveness, all of those things. It's just not a guarantee. But it's not putting your life on hold either. It is healing, it is growing, it is enriching the relationship you should be having with your children, and it is making sure that they are safe. That's just my opinion. Okay. For everyone else that is not on the private group, I just answered that as a comment from the private group, and I'm not using names because this is in the private group. Okay. So moving on to number 5. And what's our time? 1:46. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of December 27th, 2022. Date of marriage of 1994. MLCer is a vanisher and she is not familiar with energy types. She said, we've been married almost 30 years. His sister died 8 months before bomb drop, so that might be a trigger. Bomb drop was December of 2022. We are physically separated. We have 2 adult daughters. For the first several months, we did stay in contact and occasionally saw each other, but no sex. No one's filed for divorce. So 2022, it is now. So it's just been over a year. A year and 4 or 5 months. Okay. He's 64 years old. I don't want a divorce, and I stay away as requested. There's random business emails. I hold on to hope he will one day remember what we had and want to work on the marriage. He does have a limerent object, so there is an alienator. Should I approach him about my feelings or continue to stay away? I feel time is not working to my advantage. I'm going to guess you're feeling time is not working to your advantage due to him being 64. That's my guess. So, he has a limerent object. I don't think you should stay away. I think you should work on smart contact. And that means you're not out there. He is only a vanisher, perhaps, because you are doing as he's requested, staying away. But smart contact, you said business email, random business email. How random? In other words, rather than random, how frequent? Maybe you should try contacting him. Not saying, can we get together for coffee? But is there another neutral or not quite neutral kid reason? Your daughters, are they daughters or kids? 2 adult daughters. Are there other reasons that you will need to be in contact with each other because of the girls? Is it a memory that pops up on Facebook? What is the relationship your daughters have with each of you? Are they upset with him? Are they upset with you? Have they taken it out on him? Are they taking it out on you? Are they taking sides? I'm not asking you to get information from them. I'm asking you what information they are providing to you on their own. So what do you know about things? Because I want to know how, what's going on with them. I want to know how open he is about memories from them. And really with smart contact, sometimes we need to make up reasons to contact them. So if you aren't familiar with smart contact, go to Marriage Helpers, go on YouTube, look it up. They have some descriptions of smart contact. It is an acronym that they created to describe basically a neutral kind of contact that is not using pressure for contact. And follow the guidelines that they talk about. And you're going to test them because it would be different for you than it would be for me. I had a clinging boomerang. To him, I didn't need to initiate. In other words, I didn't need to be doing the smart. I might need to be smart with my contact. But I didn't need to initiate the contact because I could sit back for, I don't know, an hour, okay, a day, and he would contact me if I waited. There was a 2-week period where I think it was no contact maybe, and that was right after he left. But most times there was a day. It might be a few times in a day, but there might be a few days between occasionally, but many, many times in a week. So I didn't have to worry about it. If I were, let's say, some might be really open to that memory from Facebook. whereas others might catch on or be suspicious even if it were innocent. Whereas others, they just don't, or maybe they don't do Facebook, or they're just too avoidant. So you have to test it. Or what if you sent in a memory from Facebook? Hey, remember this? Every 3 weeks. Not like clockwork, but occasionally. They'd catch on. Isn't this a little bit much? I'm getting a little, I'm noticing this increase too much. And that would feel like pressure, maybe. But if it were every 6 months, they wouldn't. But with some, if it created a back and forth between you and can create a dialogue, then it can be ongoing. So you have to test it. With some, it'll work every 3 weeks. That's what they want, but they don't know it. With some, every 6 months, by 6 months, it's a check-in. Hey, I hadn't heard from you in a while, just making sure everything's okay. With some, you could say, I miss you, not with him. Okay. But it's not approaching him about your feelings right now. You're just keeping some smart contact and making sure that there's some grapevine going on. You're living your life to your fullest. Okay. Okay, let's look at number 6. Okay, we have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of August 28th, 2023 and a date of marriage of 2008. She has a boomerang who is a high energy replayer. She says, I've decided to file for a divorce from my MLCer, and I would like to know if I should expect Monster to get worse during the process, or will he be relieved to get his freedom? How do MLCers typically act during the divorce process? I don't think there is a typical. And that is because what if you have a vanisher versus a clinging boomerang? And you could have a clinging boomerang who is so clingy that they get scared, and some people who, when they get scared, they get mean. And it's really because I'm mad at you because you're hurting me because I love you. And then when they get scared, they grab onto you. And they're not mean to you. They're the opposite of mean to you. So I can't tell you what he is, but he's been a high energy replayer, but he's been a boomerang, not a clinging boomerang. So look at how he has behaved to you. And stay as neutral as you can when he monsters. You file for divorce, and maybe it will get worse. But what are you going to do with that? What have you done to diffuse Monster already? Keep doing that. What have you done to set the boundaries from Monster already? Keep doing it. What have you done to stick up for yourself? To set a wall and say, hey, that's not appropriate, or I'm fighting for what I have rights to. What have you done to stop the bullying? When he's trying to bully you. When he's just trying to be a big peacock or puffer fish in your way. What have you done? Keep doing it. If it's worked, keep doing it. Because they all act differently. Some MLCers act during the divorce process. They don't. Remember, MLCers don't often always file for divorce. They say they do. You filed. And then so they file and they do nothing even when they file. And they do nothing and nothing. And I don't mean monstering. I mean nothing on the divorce process. So I'm going to answer one more, and then apparently I have to call the school. So, but it's just I want you to work on how you handle Monster now. Okay. Okay. So I heard Chuck come home, but I'm assuming he went to the property and is not upstairs. So, and just so I'm going to say one more thing before I do this last one, which I had one more. I have more that I hadn't printed. I'm saving for Thursday because that's our time. But 2:30 for anyone who's out there listening from Thrive is our appointment. But I did just get a call from the school saying, call me in the health room. That might mean something. I might have to rush off to the school and back. So I will find that out in a few minutes, okay? This one. Okay. I have a female, female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of November 16th, 2023. Date of marriage of 2017. At home and a low energy wallower. She says, my MLCer said that he doesn't want this marriage anymore and that he will never, ever return to me, even if I change or when the MLC ends. Should I still have hope, or is that it? And this is why I saved these two for last, because I knew they were going to be a little bit faster. So your MLCer, the person who made a promise to you, said vows, had this, probably often had a big party for those vows. We call it a wedding. Not all of them, but and all of that, big to do, has now said he's changed his mind. Okay, so he said this one thing and now he's changed his mind. He said he won't change it again, but he's already changed his mind once. So he's proven that he's capable of changing his mind. Okay, number one, and should you still have any hope? Well, your MLCer doesn't want you to have any hope, so he's going to tell you all this stuff, but how does he know what he's going to feel in 3 to upwards of 7 years? He says he'll never return to me, even if you change. How will he know what he's going to feel when you change? He said he won't ever return to you when his midlife crisis ends. So in other words, he's aware somewhat, or has been told about midlife crisis. Yeah, even if this ends. So you mean even if your feeling of confusion, not knowing who you are and what you want in life ends, and you suddenly do know what you want in life, you won't return to me? How do you know? When you do know what you want, how do you, but you don't know what that is now. How do you, in other words, everything he's telling you is BS, because he has the foggiest idea what he's going to want in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, 8 months, whatever. He's in a midlife crisis, and they cycle and cycle and cycle, and he's going to tell you everything he can to get you to say what you just asked me, to get you to go, well, he said it's over, so I guess it's over. I'm just going to give up hope. That's it, I guess. Oh, yep, he said I shouldn't have hope. I guess it's over. I'll say that. Nope. You look at what the actions, not words. And when it comes to their actions, sometimes you're not even going to act that. He is a low energy wallower. Do you know what that means? He means he's depressed. And you know what depressed is? Depressed is hopelessness in them. To them, they feel life is hopeless, everything is hopeless, and there is no way out. And there's no way out because they feel they can't get a way out. They can't imagine a way out. That's why it is hopeless. So everyone should just give up. But there is a way out. Okay. So it's your job. You don't have to tell them that you seem like a fool to them. You just live your life. It's like, and you know what you say? I'm going to make my own choices, honey. You know what I told Chuck, and this was in the beginning. I'm going to make my own choices. I choose you. I'm allowed to do that. Even if you don't want to choose, you can have an opinion about what I should choose, but you don't get to tell me what I choose. Now, he doesn't, we have to have two to make the full choice of being an us. But we each get a vote in it. And sure, it has to be both people vote and then, the winner. But hey, I am allowed my vote. I vote that I'm going to choose you. Okay? You're allowed to do that. Okay. So I will see you again on Thursday. Keep sending more questions. I have a few more that I have not printed out for today that are already on my list. And send a few more. I think I can fit a few more in. I'm not positive. But I think I think I have 4 or 5 already. I'm not sure. So keep sending, and any others will go on to the next pre-recorded videos. For Thrivers, I will try and be there at 2:30. If you get a really fast email in a few minutes, it's because I have to rush off to the school. And so we could be late. We'll see. Okay? But I will see everyone else on Thursday. Bye-bye.